Hey everybody, in today's episode, I am going to be talking about IELTS essays, and in this portion, we'll be only discussing the first paragraph, the intro. And the essay topic that we have here is some people say retirement is the happiest time of a person's life. To what extent do you agree with this view? So as you can see, the keywords that we have are retirement and the happiest time of a person's life. So what we are asked to do is to express our idea whether we agree with this view or we do not. So let's have a look at a sample opening paragraph that has been written by a student. I would like you to read it with me. And once we are done, we're going to just discuss this together. Nowadays, in all countries, the population is aging rapidly, and this presents the older people themselves with challenges as well as opportunities. I think that retirement might not be the happiest time of life, and I will explain why in this essay. So I would like you to pause your video for a minute, consider this paragraph, and then assign a score to this on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest possible score and 1 being the lowest possible score. All right, so let's just get started. First, we're going to criticize this. There are several grounds for this. Number one is, well, as a general recommendation, you got to look at the keywords you have in your topic. So here, the writer has decided to begin this paragraph with nowadays. Truth is, aging and retirement is not an issue of nowadays. It has been around for as long as men have started to work for companies and have started doing business to just make money. So that opening word nowadays sounds like a cliche to me. So as a general recommendation, I suggest you stay away from words like today, nowadays, these days, or the longer version of those in this day and age. So that's the first bit of criticism over here. So let's move on. Nowadays, in all countries, as you can see, I have highlighted this part, in all countries. Well, this sounds to be a generalization, and I can say it's mostly like an overgeneralization because the population is aging rapidly in all countries. Well, that may not be the case with some countries. Some countries have got very young populations, so we cannot just issue that statement for all countries around the world. So my suggestion is you ought to be a bit more specific and avoid generalizations. And these are some of the words that might push you towards that trap: all, every, any, none, and always. You can see the extent of these phrases and how general they might sound. So stay away from these. The next. I think that retirement might not be the happiest time of life. Again, this phrase, I think that, well, this is simple language. I believe this phrase is one of the things that you learned early on, maybe when you were just like, well, 3 months into your language learning journey, right? You began to use this, I think that. So what should I do? Well, my recommendation is you gotta try to avoid using these phrases: I think, I believe, I feel. Instead, go for something a bit more academic. My contention is that I am convinced, I am inclined to believe, and I adhere to the view that. So these are equivalents, but the big difference is, well, they are far more impressive. They indicate that your language is far more advanced and they sound more academic. So I'm going to just read them out loud one more time. My contention is that I am convinced, I am inclined to believe, and I adhere to the view that. All right, now let's move ahead and talk about the next area. I think that retirement might not be the happiest time of life. Well, you remember clearly that this is a phrase that we had in the question. So you should pay attention to this very huge pitfall. You should not be using the same words that are given in the question. So my recommendation is that you got to try to paraphrase all of those keywords as much as you can. I know sometimes it's inevitable and eventually you have to use some of those keywords, but that should be one of your objectives, to come up with some alternatives, some synonyms. That's why we learn to use synonyms, and we learn to memorize lots of words. So here's something you got to do. Instead of the happiest time, the writer could have gone on with something like the most contented period or the most rewarding period. So not the happiest, because IELTS has given us this one. They don't expect us to be using and repeating the same thing. Another area. I think that retirement might not be the happiest time of life. Remember, this is your thesis statement, right? Your thesis statement should be very clear. It should not be wishy-washy and tentative. Tentative means uncertain. So words such as might, could, probably, possibly, all of these indicate uncertainty. If this is your opinion, then you got to be certain about what you're saying. You can't stay on the fence. IELTS does not like fence sitters. You got to just make your position very clear. So no tentative thesis. The next. I think that retirement might not be the happiest time of life, and I will explain why in this essay. Well, aren't you supposed to be doing this without just talking about it? I will explain why in this essay. Well, this sounds like a memorized phrase to me. I know a lot of native speakers tend to use this in their articles and books, but when you're given 250 words as the word limit, then you got to care to use the words that show creativity and express your ideas instead of just rewriting the rubric, right? So this phrase is not going to help you. Try to avoid this, because a lot of candidates tend to use them, and some of them even go for some colorful, rosy language instead of I will explain why in this essay, but still more of the same. I will discuss the main causes of this problem. You got to mention those causes, even if you do that very generally. This essay will delve into the reasons for, well, this is very nice, this is very beautiful, but still it sounds like memorized language. The main causes will be explained. No, do that. Don't tell the reader what you're going to do. Just do it. With that in mind, let's just move on to the last part of this short video lesson. I would like you to just have a look at this refined response. I'm not saying that this is the absolute best answer, but this is a lot better than the previous one, the opening sample paragraph that we examined together. And I'm going to explain why. First, in many countries, so the writer is not going to be accused of overgeneralizing something. Instead of all, he has used the word many. In many countries, not in all countries. The population is aging consistently. So this is what is happening. And this transition presents the older people themselves with challenges as well as opportunities. Good vocabulary over there. And I like that phrase as well as. I am convinced that. So he has used I am convinced that instead of the simple phrase, I think that. Retirement has been used again, but well, sometimes you're not really going to find a better alternative for one word or one phrase. The issue here is retirement and the age of retirement. So he has used it just like the way it has been in the question, and it's going to be fine. Retirement is not, in fact, the most contented period. Oh, this is interesting. The most contented period instead of the happiest period or the happiest time. So it is not going to be the most contented period of life due to the adverse impacts of physiological and attitudinal changes associated with aging. Remember how I criticized the previous opening paragraph because of the use of a very tentative and uncertain statement? This one is not going to be criticized for those very same reasons. This one is very clear, and instead of using some phrases and expressions that sound like memorized language, the writer has been somewhat specific by talking about the causes of this, the adverse impacts of physiological and attitudinal changes that come with aging. So I would say this is going to deserve a much higher score compared to the first one. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure you subscribe to our channel.